podcast contains potentially adult language, adult themes, definitely drinking, and possibly sexual context. Listener discretion is advised. Okay, we're on. Welcome to Drinking with Authors. Woo! Okay, this is another COVID edition. I will say to our audience today, we are going to start our YouTube channel. This one will probably be up there. It's super exciting because somebody told me yesterday that our reactions were just so funny that we needed to put this up on YouTube so people could see some of the reactions we have. Well, plus meet the authors and stuff. And I think it's fun. And who gives a flying crap? We're all sitting at home anyway. At least we put on pants today. That might be a lie. I maybe didn't put on pants. Okay, so I'm your host, Marteeka Karland. With me today is
Vanessa Valiente.
And our guest today, I just want to make sure I say this completely correctly, is Marteeka Karland, right? Did
Correct.
I say that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, yay, let's talk about what we're drinking because we always do so you guys can drink along with us. I've had this cup. It says the boss on it. It's really funny, but it's huge, and I've had it for 25 years. It's bizarre. But in it today is coffee and ginger whiskey by Misunderstood is the name of the brand that does the ginger whiskey, and it's amazing. Hashtag if you want to sponsor us.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Okay, Vanessa, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a good old Captain and Coke, and over yonder is some coffee, just in case if I need a pick-me-up. Gotta have coffee.
Awesome. Marteeka, what are you drinking?
Well, got my red Solo cup
Woo!
with my Captain
Woo! Captain! Woo!
and my Coke.
Okay, Captain Morgan's hashtag another sponsorship opportunity, obviously. I'm not judged here. That's
It
fine.
was
Okay.
not planned, I swear.
Barbie was quick to point out that the jug is almost empty.
I don't think so. I think that's a badge of honor. That's a
I totally agree.
I used to have like a small little, liquor setup. People come over, just what I like to drink. And then I started this podcast, and there's an entire kitchen counter that is just alcohol. And every now and then my boyfriend's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "It's for the podcast."
It's a very impressive display. I saw it yesterday.
Yeah. Like, okay, yeah, no, totally for the podcast. It's a business expense. Okay. Marteeka, here's the thing. I looked you up, obviously, cyberstalked you. Let's tell the audience who doesn't necessarily know you, what do you write?
Mostly the last year or so, I've been doing a lot of MC romance, which in the past I've done a lot of interracial stuff because I used to partner with Shahrazad, and she got me into that with her. I also partnered a little bit with Beautiful Trouble Publishing, which both of those are heavily interracial romance type stuff. Learned a lot about romance in general and everything else. But when I started mostly back with Changeling after Shara took a break and Beautiful Trouble, they kind of do their own thing anymore. And I've been with Changeling for 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was the thing that they were really working with at the time and what had most success for them at the time. So I tried it and I have enjoyed the piss out of it. It's been so much fun to write because there's literally no boundaries anywhere. I mean, whatever you want to try, the readers are willing to give you a shot, and you just got to pay attention to people. What do they want? What feels good to them? And I have enjoyed it so much, and the readers have been so wonderful to me, and it's just been a fabulous experience.
Well, seeing your covers and you going, I enjoyed it so much. There's so many incredibly hot bad boys on your cover.
We were admiring them yesterday, and I was like, I can't wait to talk to her.
Yeah. I was like, well, hello, cowboy.
Uh-huh. Hell yeah.
When did you start writing?
Sci-fi, paranormal type stuff, mostly science fiction was what I started. The first book that I ever wrote and completed went to Changeling Press, obviously. And it was a heavily science fiction romance. Invasion of the world, kill everybody, woohoo kind of thing. And
I'm on board with that. I'll be near the end of
And so
2020 to
I
write
mean,
a story.
it was the first book that I ever did and completed, and they sent it back for rewrites with not an outright rejection, but just like, look, bitch, you need to do this. And I'm like, okay. And it just kind of, I think it was more of a test kind of to see, because at that time there was a lot of people getting into the online and e-publishing and stuff like that. And they wanted to see, are these authors willing to work with us? Are they willing to do what it needs to do to make this book the best it can be? And so I added another 15,000 words to it or so, and did the changes that they asked, and they accepted it, and it just kind of went downhill from there.
I would not say downhill. Your
No.
catalog is amazing.
No, definitely not. But it's just kind of like, I feel like I got into this hole, and Margaret is like the most wonderful person in the face of the planet, and she's like my surrogate mother now. And it's just like, she'll get on Trillian, and she's like, okay, you need to do this for me this month, and you've got 2 weeks to do it. And I'm like, and try to do it anyway.
That
Wow.
sounds like Erica to me.
Go ahead, Vanessa, what were you saying?
I was saying that sounds like an Erica to me, because she does that. She's like, so Vanessa, where are you on your manuscript? And I'd be like, I don't know. And then she'd be like, okay, give me a different answer now.
Yeah.
Give me a date of when this will be done.
Oh,
I
yeah.
do that
And
just
Margaret
too.
calls and sings to us, and it's not pretty. And she calls me at work, and right now her mission is to get me to quit my day job. So she'll call me at work, and I'll be like, Carl, this is the busiest time of day. She goes, and?
Well, that leads to a couple other questions, Vanessa. I appreciate and don't appreciate the version of me that you just did, because it's too accurate and whatever. Yes, I'm a little bit of a drill sergeant when it comes to authors I work with, because I feel like, and this was going to be my question, some people work really great with deadlines, and some people need to be like pushed in the direction of that deadline. So how do you feel? Is it better for you to have these deadlines?
Probably, because I'm the world's worst procrastinator, and little online Facebook games are the bane of my existence.
Social media is, I think, one of the devils for any writer's existence. Like, you're like, oh, it's just 1
if it
second.
wasn't for those little games, I wouldn't get so distracted, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Oh my God, I love it. Okay, so what truly got you? Okay, when did you start writing? When did you begin?
In the 3rd grade.
No, that's perfect. We have we're producing a teen angst anthology at the end of this year, and we want writers to send us all their teen angst stuff unedited, just pictures of like their journals and crap.
Oh my gosh. I think my mom may still have the story somewhere. I don't know. My teacher really, really liked it. And it was like everybody, of course, like I said, 3rd grade, right? So everybody's writing these little paragraph stories, one little, this happened. It was a Halloween story. And I ended up with like a page and a half.
Wow.
As a 3rd grader, and it like had all of my classmates in it, and everybody was going into this haunted mansion. And I mean, it wasn't like they were getting killed or anything like that. It wasn't like gory or anything, but still, we were all going into this haunted mansion, and we got scared and all this kind of stuff, and everybody ran out. And I don't know if there was actually a hero in the story or anything yet, but everybody got out alive, and it was all good, right? So I don't know if my mom still has the copy of that, but I need to find it somewhere and take a picture of it, because it's just too cute.
You need to do that. I think we need to include it, even though it's not a teenage one. I want to include it in the anthology. I absolutely want to put it in there. So you started writing. When did you first actually? You talked about your first book, but when did you take it a little more seriously to go towards actually publishing a book?
Honestly, I didn't think that I would ever be able to, just because I knew nothing about how to submit to a New York press. I knew nothing about agents and editors, and all I knew how to do was put words on a page. And sometimes it was good, and sometimes it wasn't so good, and sometimes it was just stuff in a drawer, don't ever pull it out, burn it if you can. What really I guess made me think that maybe I've got a shot at this was when I started reviewing for a little site called Timeless Tales. Brianna, somebody, I can't remember, St. James maybe. She was an editor, ended up being an editor at Alora's Cave back in the day, and was their submissions editor, I guess, after that for literally until they closed the doors. She started that as just a review site, and I started finding out, hey, these books are, online, and the publishers everything's online. That's when I started looking into it. It's like, you've got these places to choose from and all of these different types of books, and it's not just stuff you go buy in Walmart. I mean, I was reading stuff. It's the first time I'd ever picked up an erotica book in my life. And they really couldn't decide how to label it, I guess, at the time. It was right when the Laura's Cave started. So that's when you first got the romantica kind of thing, where you hybrid erotica and romance and get erotic romance. And that was the first time I'd ever been exposed to anything like that. It was just like, holy fucking shit, this is great. And then I got a hold of some books that, I was kind of like, I can do that. I can. It may not be that good, but I can follow a story. I can do that. So this is what I've always wanted to do. And, why not give it a try? And it just, kind of snowballed. I had what really gave me the time to do it was when I had my son, when I was off work for, a couple months on maternity leave and everything. And I just kind of tried to work through it from there. And I had never finished a story. My English teachers hated that. But I would get notes at the bottom, where's the rest of it? but that was, marked the beginning of a new chapter in my life. And if it hadn't been for these, and then of course, then I get to finding out the whole history of ebooks and everything, and the Laura's Cave and how it all came about. And Margaret was actually in on that on the ground floor, Margaret Riley, before she started Changeling Press. And she kind of took me under my wing, and I cannot stress enough how much she's helped me through this whole journey, and it's been wonderful.
Oh, that is amazing. So you mentioned you have a full-time gig. Me and Vanessa still have full-time gigs. We talk about that on the podcast. What is causing you not to cut the cord and just go full-time? You've got quite a few books.
Well, I have in the past, and for lack of a better reason, when the bottom falls out, the bottom fucking falls out. I went from making it $1.2 a month, which isn't a lot to a lot of people, but I went from doing that to $200 a month in the space of like 2 months. And it wasn't because I wasn't putting out books. It was just the market that I was writing for at the time was not good for me, and it just all kind of fell. So right now I consider myself making decent money for what I do. I mean, not nearly like what other people in the same genre are doing, but just that one little bit, all it takes is a month. And now you've got, of course, Amazon is, 2 months behind. You got 2 months to prepare for it. And, if I can't pay my bills, then, what do I do? So yeah, I've quit before, and I'm not going to say I won't quit again, but it's just in this kind of the way the economy is right now, and we don't know what's going to happen with the COVID thing. And, are we going to be locked down again? And if we do, are people going to have money? And if they don't have money, are they really going to want to buy a book?
No, it's true. And it's interesting you mentioned that because, I think just for a lot of people listening who are authors, I know that's a huge sect of our audience and drinkers. Just kidding. No, there's a lot of people that for whatever reason find us entertaining, but that's cool. We love you. Is that it is, when you talk about working and writing full time, I think it's a reality check that when you do that, it is great if you can make, 5 figures every month. Yay, that's amazing. But that is sometimes the exception, not the rule. The goal when you're a writer, I think, has to be, if you're going to write full time, what are your bills? Where are you at? What do you have to make to I don't want to say survive, but you're not necessarily going to be luxurious in your activity. Right.
You just want to maintain what you've got. You don't necessarily need, or at least for me, I don't necessarily need more, but I don't want to lose what I have. I don't want to lose, we bought a Pioneer 1000 side by side for our farm and everything. And do we need it? Probably not. Do I want to give it up? Hell no. Fucker's fun as shit out in the woods. I mean, it's great. So I don't want to lose what I've got. I want to keep where I'm at, and I can't do that with my day job alone. I've expanded out too much, I guess, probably, where writing is no longer a oh, great, I did wonderful this month. I could get a new computer, that kind of thing. It's become, I got to pay the bills out of this one. I have to make the house payment out of this. I have to make the car payment out of this. And I swore I never would get to that point. But after 15 years, when you've had that coming in, even if it's just $100 a month, you kind of get to where you depend on it. It's just like anything else. So, if I quit my job and the bottom falls out of it, not only have I lost that, but I've lost my insurance because, there's no way we can afford to pay for that outright. So, day job is a necessary evil, even though I do love my coworkers and would do anything in the world for them except give them my pen. They cannot have my pen.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. I have a pen acquisition zone that surrounds me for some reason, and I don't take them intentionally, but for whatever reason, I wind up with pens all over I'm like, where did these pens come from? I don't know how that happens at work. It's really bizarre.
You're a pen thief. You're going to hell.
Erica just outed
I
herself.
was going to hell for many other reasons.
Listen,
So that's fine.
I work in the emergency department. I'm the unit secretary, so I get to sit behind the desk and direct traffic, right? So you can literally lay a $20 bill down on the nurse's station, and it will still be there 2 shifts from now. But if you lay food or an ink pen down, it will be gone before you can fucking turn around. And our rule used to be no name, fair game. But in an ink pen's case, even if you have your name on it, they will peel that sumbitch off and it will be theirs. Pens are not something you mess around with, okay? Food, maybe you might get away. I mean, they probably won't take your food if you've got your name on it. But if it's if it's like taped on with a piece of tape, yeah, they'll peel that sumbitch off and it'll be gone. You got to do it in permanent Sharpie. I'm just saying, permanent Sharpie. You got to invest in a permanent Sharpie.
That sounds like my job when we used to work in our office building. We're all like temporarily working from home until the end of the year. But if you left any kind of free food that wasn't labeled on a table, it would be gone because everyone wanted a chance for some free snacks. Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. I love that. Okay, let's talk about, so how many books total do you have out?
Oh, God. I think right now it's hovering somewhere around 56 or so. We've combined several. I think at any point in time, every book that I've written separated out, not in box set, everything like that. I was around 120, 130, but we've condensed a bunch down to box sets. A couple have gone out of print that I've just not redone because I wanted to do a re-edit on and, things like that. So I think I'm down right now somewhere in the 50s. I have to go check. I counted yesterday. I swear I counted yesterday because I knew you were going to ask that because I listened to Michelle's and I was prepared, goddammit, and now I can't remember.
Well, that's the drinking. I love because you're not the only one that's come on this podcast and gone, I listened to you, so I was prepared. Then I asked a question and they're like, I don't remember.
Oh, man, I counted it. I swear to God. Because my website is like labeled out really now. I've got 5 books per row and I go count the rows and subtract the one and all this stuff. And I had the number. It was in the 50s. I don't remember much else.
That's okay. I think in the 50s is still, and especially over 100 normally, that's fucking impressive. That is amazing. How many books do you put out a year?
Right now, I'm on a monthly schedule, so I'm going to be this year anywhere from 10 to 12 books, anywhere from 20 to 30,000 words. Some of them are a little longer, 35 maybe, but that's just because I've tried to adapt to the genre that I've been writing currently. The MC authors like a little bit, or the MC readers like a little bit longer. And I think right now the girl that has been helping me the most, Harley Wild, she goes anywhere from 40 to 50,000 words. So I'm trying to get up that far, but right now with the day job and trying to do one a month, it's really hard to get up there. But currently, I think at the end of this year, I should have at least 10, if not 12 books out.
Wow.
It's a blistering pace. And one I struggle to keep up with sometimes. And I can't even blame it on the day job because I was furloughed for 2 months back in the height of this, back in April and May and the early part of June, and I caught up. But that's pretty much all I managed to do was just kind of catch myself up so I wasn't so behind. And that's the reason Margaret's trying to push for me to quit the day job, so not necessarily for my sanity, but so I don't fuck with her schedule.
No, as a publisher, I can super
You totally get that, don't you?
Oh, yeah, no. So still have a day job, publisher. Vanessa will tell you that whole part of me that's like, you need to get your writing done gets amplified from the publishing standpoint of this book is on pre-order. You have a week. and you need to get it to us.
File is supposed to have been up 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And for us, what we do, we put it up on pre-order, and you have to meet that deadline on Amazon or you're screwed. Like, Amazon doesn't play around with that stuff if you don't meet it. They're done with you pre-ordering anything. They're like, no, you screwed that up. You can't get another pre-order.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about your writing process. If you're doing 20 to 30,000 words a month, I'm so jealous. So, how many, when you sit down on average, when you're not near Facebook and the cute little games, how many words per hour can you get done if you're on a good clip, like you're on a good pace?
If I'm on a good pace, and I like to use the example of my son does some stuff at a couple of the colleges in Tennessee, like through the summer and things, and he'll have like a day where they have like a whole day and they're doing classes, and I go, and we're 3 hours away. I'm not paying for a motel room, so I'm sitting in my car, right? I'll get on with a couple of my buddies and we'll have what we call sprints. I'm sure you're both familiar with them.
Yeah.
We'll get on and we'll have, okay, 30 minutes, what's your word count? And I think over a 30-minute period, if I'm sitting there just, and the words just vomiting it off the keyboard and onto the page, in 30 minutes I can probably do 700 to 800 words. I think at one point I got 900 words. But my problem is focus. If I ever stop to go to the bathroom, to get a bite to eat, it'll take me another 2 hours to get back into it. I'll have an hour where I'll do 150 words, and it's really frustrating. But if I can get into that good clip and get my mind right and know where the story's going and not have to stop and adjust myself, then I can get 800 to 900 words in a 30-minute period.
Wow, that's impressive. That is super awesome.
Well, it goes back to my early days when I was a data entry operator, and when they stressed, you got to get those keystrokes in, you got to get, all this. So I learned how to pick up my words and my accuracy. So that, much as I hated that job, it kind of helped me later on in life. I mean, I could type, but not anything like what it was when you're trying to make production just to get a little bit extra.
Oh my gosh, totally. Okay, so let's talk about your process then. At 12 books a month, so first of all, do you come up with the idea? I'm assuming you come up with the ideas for all of the books, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your process? We love, the pantser, plancer, plotter, method writer. Like, we've come up with so many different versions of that. The outliner, and there are those of us like me. I'm squarely in the pantser situation, but where are you at?
I do a little bit of both right now. Currently, I guess the damn fly. The last when you pick up the damn fly swat, they disappear. I was like, yeah, God damn, fucking little beast. Anyway, so the last book I did was a combination. I started out kind of pantsing it. I knew sort of what I wanted to do, but then as it got halfway through the book, I started to slow down and really, really struggle. So I'm like, okay, I've got to have an idea where I'm going. I've got to have an idea. So I just sat down at the bottom of the document, because I work everything in Google Docs because I'm a technically challenged kind of individual, and if I do it in Word, which I have tried, if anything happens to my computer, I am so fucked. So I do everything in Google Docs, and I can work from my phone, I can work from the computer, I can work from another computer, I can work from wherever. But anyways, at the bottom of my document, I just started typing out, okay, this is what's going to happen next, this is what's going to happen next. If I thought of a cute little line I wanted somebody to say, I would go ahead and type it in like I was writing it and everything like that. And just as it was kind of flowing that way, I had the whole second half of the book basically written. You just have to fill in the gaps. Just have to go back through and add the scene, add, the emotion and the senses and all this stuff. But everything was done. And it was probably another page and a half. And out of that, I got probably 40 pages.
Wow.
You just kind of, that was the second whole half of the book. And I've done that before. And I find it helps me not only focus, but it also gives me a place to go, and it ups my word count, really. Not intentionally, it just, because I know what's going, and I know what that scene needs and what I need to do to make it a full body scene, something that you can get inside of and see, then it, it turns into more than what I've written. And it's just kind of like, I guess, maybe a second or third draft, you could say, of the finished product would be a second or third draft of it. And then, of course, you go back and do the whole other thing. But by the time you get to that point, you've already really got the first draft done at the bottom of your page, when it's just no dialogue. It's just, this is what's going to happen and everything like that. And so,
how long does it take for you once you start drafting to, like, at least to the end of a first draft? Like, how long do you have, like, an average time frame that you have with all of your books?
no, I wish I did. I would like to have it exactly on a schedule. And I will say, since I started using, I don't know if anybody's used the Nano website, the Nano Rotmo website. They've got you can just put in your word count. Yeah, you put in your word count, and it just, increments you every day. And you've got, say you allowed 2 weeks for that book, and you put in your word count every day. It shows you where you should be versus where you are. And I find that at the top, I'll start woo, and then it kind of goes woo, and then it kind of and so my husband's like, why do you even do that? I'm like, it makes me accountable for what I'm doing. It holds me accountable. This is where I want to be. This is where I have told myself I'm going to be. And that kind of helps. But at the same time, and then at the end of that, I should have another week to a week and a half to go through the whole thing again as a second draft and a third draft before. And I've got time to get to my beta readers or whatever before I actually have to turn it in. So, I mean, on average, I'm probably giving myself 2.5 weeks to write the book, and then another week and a half or so to finish it up before I turn it into my editor.
Oh, wow. But that's phenomenal. All of that. That is amazing that you do that.
I don't do very well. That's the plan. I don't do very well with that. Sometimes I'm there. Most of the time I'm not, but I just do the best I can and try not to cause anybody a heart attack too much.
No, I think that's phenomenal. Okay, so let's talk about, so you're with publishers, you're with small presses?
Yes.
Have you always been with small presses?
No, I mean, I do some self-publish stuff, but yeah, mostly always small presses. I mean, for me, it takes the behind the scenes aspect out of it, which I'm not great at. Not because I'm lazy or don't want to do it. It's that if I'm going to get out the next book in the next month, I don't have time to find an editor, go through my edits and make sure, and then I still have to hire these people to do this. And I can't afford it, number one. And number two, I just don't have the knowledge to do it correctly. And I mean, I have worked, Beautiful Trouble was very meticulous about their edits and their proofing and, everything. Changeling is the same way. And the others that I've been with a couple others, and most of those are no longer with us, if that, may kind of explain some of it. But I find that it's really hard to find somebody that meticulous that respects what I'm doing as an author and doesn't try to shove me into something that I don't really want to do. Changeling and Beautiful Trouble both were very good to do that. And Shara Azad wasn't really a publisher per se. She was more of a brand, and she just published books for other authors too under her brand. And she was really good about it too. I helped her like as a partner for several years before she took a break. But I like going with a publisher because it's kind of like going to work for somebody else versus having your own business. I don't have to worry about accounting. I don't have to worry about, making sure everybody's got insurance. I don't have to worry about X, Y, and Z. All I've got to do is my job. And for me, that works because my mind is just not geared toward any other way. And it just helps to be able to turn the book in and say, here, have at it. I'll do whatever you want. And, they get the edits out. They get the proofing through. They get, everything. And then if there's questions, they come back to me. And I ultimately, I guess, have the final say in how they want to do that. But I don't have to work with everything else so that I miss something. That's my biggest fear, is that, I'll put something out there and I'll miss a huge thing, which has happened, which is why a couple of the books that I've got now that I'm really proud of need another edit. And I've just not gone back through and rewritten them for that edit. But yeah, mostly small publishing houses. And I like that. I like the small atmosphere of it. I like the fact that I can call Margaret at any time of the day or send her an email and she emails me back, which I don't think I would get that with the bigger places.
All right.
No, I
That's
don't think you do unless you're J.K. Rowling's. They might email you back right away. But I mean, it's true, and I love that you're saying that because we also and we talk about this. We have a small press. It's called Four Horsemen Publications. We started it up this year, but we did it for all the reasons that you just said because there's a lot of amazing writers out there that just want to write. But one of the things I wanted to say is that I love that you talked about these two great presses because a lot of times on here we hear about all the horror stories, and there are unfortunately so many horror stories for authors when it comes to publishing. Small presses that weren't paying their authors the money that they earned. Like there's unfortunately a list of them. So when you do find small presses that work with you and that are great, I love hearing the publication of, the talking about it, publication of it, man, fucking whiskey. But the other part that I also think is amazing to do is if you are a writer and you're looking at a small press, see if you can get referrals from other authors that are under that press. Reach out to those authors, ask them about their experience and stuff like that.
Definitely.
Because of that reason, some authors don't want to talk to you. They want to throw the manuscript at you and move on to their next manuscript and not like just edit it, get it out there, fix it, make it pretty, move on, right? And you have to find a press that works with how you want to write and how you want to produce your product and is good. And you have to look at what are their covers like? What is their typesetting like? Grab a couple of the books that they've published and read them and go, do you like the kind of editing that they're doing? And then talk to the authors and go, do you like working with them? What do you like working with them about? What don't you like working with them about? I think that's really, really, really important to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to just doing your research and your due diligence, which you should do no matter what type of avenue in publishing you want to do, whether it's self-publishing, small press, or getting a literary agent. I know we are all like just hell-bent to get our book out there into the world, but, you also don't want to put your baby with just anyone because the moment one avenue publishes it, then it kind of just eliminates all the other ones. And if you chose the one that isn't having your best interest or doesn't align with your vision, you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. So it's always important that, yes, we want to be published, but we want to be published in the way that fits our individual needs as well.
Something else too, and you mentioned this, and I did at the IRAE event in Orlando a couple years ago. I did a panel on editing, and it wasn't that I myself am a great editor. I suck at it. Okay, I mean, I'm just not an editor. But your editor is not there. And I think a lot of you're talking about trying to get things out and everything, especially if you're self-published. You've got to get your bottom line. You want your books out and in front of people. People tend to skip the proofreading part, and I don't mean proofreading after it comes back from edits. I mean before you send it to your editor. And if you can be, as an author, if you cannot be bothered to, and this is going to get me in trouble, as an author, if you cannot be bothered to read your work before you send it to your editor, why should the readers bother to read your book at all?
Oh my gosh, well, I'm an editor, so the fact that you just said that, thank you. And because
now, I'm not saying that the shit I send to Katrina is like the best in the world, and sometimes she comes back and she's like, girl, could you possibly say repeat another time? Please do a search. Do a search, find the word repeat and delete it. Use a different word. I'm not saying that the shit that I send to her is perfect by any means, and it's not gonna be. It's raw, it's there, but you should read through it. Make sure that you've called your character the right name. My world's worst thing that I do is I'll have a character that has a difficult name because I'm stupid, and I'll spell it 4 different ways.
Right.
Okay, I mean, that shit like that happens, but you should take time at the end of it to do a read through the whole thing at least once.
No, I agree with that. That's exactly because, as like an editor, our goal is to try to clean up and get your vision up the way that you want it. But also, if it's too chaotic, it's very difficult to catch all those things, because then you're trying to like, I'm checking for this, and I'm this and this and this and this and this, and
then
you
a
know,
word's missing, and it takes you out of the scene. You know, I, and I've had authors that will stand up, and even at that, they stand up and say, well, that's what I pay an editor for. No, that's not what you pay an editor for. You've got content editors, you've got line editors, you've got, I mean, there's, you know, at least 2 or 3 different editors that your book will see before the end of the product. Proofreader is a whole nother step, and it comes at the beginning and it comes at the end. And a couple times at the end, even sometimes, just to make that last little bit. But I think as self-published authors, and I will include myself in this too, sometimes we tend to skip some of those steps because we don't think that they're important, or maybe we know they're important, but like I say, that's what we pay the editor for. Well, no, really, it's not what you pay the editor for. That's not what you pay the editor for. The editor doesn't do that. And while we're on this topic, it doesn't end with the book being published. You get your book up there for pre-order, now the work starts, because you've got to promote this bitch. And that is not the job of the publisher. Yes, they will do some, but as an author, you've got to do that too. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm
sorry, I'm the captain, and here I am, and I get on my soapbox, and
no,
I mean,
I just want to jump in and say one thing about that, is that even if, like, it's funny because I listened to like a lot of, you know, interviews with other authors, even the ones that are traditionally published with the big 4, and the thing that blew my mind is, even if, let's say, you get picked by Penguin, Macmillan, Simon Schuster, you still have to do marketing, because typically what happens is, let's say they have 30 titles that they've chosen for their fall season, right? Mm-hmm. Only one of them is going to get that huge backing that you see where that book is just blasted on everything. Mm-hmm. The other ones still have to do all the work. So there's this misunderstanding that if I get picked by the big 4, I don't have to do anything. And that is not the mindset you need to have. No matter where you are, whether you are with a big 4, small press, or self-published, you have to market. Because if not, your book, the only one who's going to care the most about your book is you. Mm-hmm. That's so important.
Yeah, I agree. And before we keep going, because we're past the 30, we're going to take a quick break. And we'll be right back with Drinking with Authors.
This is the voice of Drinking with Authors. You are at our commercial break, and our commercial is, hey, do you want to be a guest on our show? Or do you have a question for one of the guests on our show? Or do you have a brilliant drink recipe that we've never heard of? That would have to stump us. But you could reach us at drinkingwithauthors@gmail.com, or on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. You can direct message, or even just leave a comment on one of our posts. We would absolutely love to hear from you.
Things like that. So we were talking about editing and all of this stuff. Let's talk a little bit. So you mentioned a word you use. I love hearing about what writers have as bad habits, because we all get to share our bad habits together. Everybody realizes this with me. Do you see how I did that? Okay, so I bet I've said that more on this show. Now I freak out when I write the word realize. I do Control F to go, how many times have I said realize in this manuscript?
Well, I'm okay as long as it's not like 50 times in the same paragraph, which I'm bad for sometimes and don't know how it happens. It just happens.
So what do your characters do? What is your biggest that you need to control find on?
Body. Margaret doesn't like the word body, and I like to use the word body. And so I have to go through and look for that every single book, and try to find a different way of saying body without actually saying body. That one is a big one, and I'm really bad for the, you know, this happened and everything. Still, she went ahead and did X, Y, and Z. Still, and yet, you know, things like that. I find that, and that's more of a me thing. I'll go through and see it and be like, I did it again. twice in the same sentence. Oh my God, that kind of thing. It'll be a different word every book sometimes, or a different phrase every time, but it will be in that book so many times that it's just in no way, shape, or form acceptable. I can't even sometimes. But yeah, I'm really bad. And at the end, when I'm reading through, I try to be conscious of that. And then I'll go through and search my phrases or whatever. It doesn't always work. And then Katrina will send it back, and in one paragraph, she'll have 6 words highlighted. And she's like, yeah, I might want to get a thesaurus. The thesaurus is our friend.
Thesauruses are our best friends in the entire world. Don't get too creative with them, though. I've seen authors like go,
The thesaurus gone wrong.
Yeah, this is one of my biggest pet peeves when I'm reading a book, and obviously it's great. The English language is very verbose. We got a lot of words. I almost said verbose, and that's wrong. Okay, whiskey. But when you take a word and you put a word that nobody in the fucking world will understand what that word means, and you have to fucking look it up, you're out of that story. It's done when you're reading it and you're like, okay, I can't even get context around what this word is. And I go, oh my God, why would you do this? Why would you do this to your reader? And especially depending on genre. If you're sci-fi, knock yourself out. Use all the big fucking scientific words you want to, because people who read sci-fi for the most part will sometimes look up that shit or even try to replicate what they read in the book into real life. We're going to build a TARDIS. Like, that's going to happen. So, but don't write in the middle of like a erotica book some ridiculous English word that hasn't been used since the 1800s about something. Like, Okay, that was my soapbox rant for a moment.
I hear ya. Okay. I hear ya.
What do you consider yourself incredibly good at as a writer?
Oh man, maybe dialogue. I find I can get lost in the dialogue. That's kind of sad in a way, because I'm having a conversation with myself. Isn't that the very definition of crazy? And they always tell you it's okay to talk to yourself, but don't answer yourself. Well,
I answer myself all the time. That means I'm
find
not.
that when I'm writing, probably the thing that goes the fastest for me is when I'm in a big dialogue bit. I mean, they can go back and forth like for an hour nonstop, and I don't feel like I've forced the issue. Does that make sense? I guess it doesn't to me. When I read it, it doesn't seem stilted, and I have, I guess that's one of my biggest things. If a book's going to be realistic, especially, I mean, you're talking fantasy fiction, none of it's real, right? But if you want the reader to suspend that disbelief, then your characters have to be able to talk like a real person. And I guess maybe just because I appreciate that in other authors' works, I try really hard to make mine sound like a real conversation. Maybe
I think that's brilliant. There's a lot of authors that we've talked to, even on this podcast, that go dialogue is their hardship. And I, as a reader,
love dialogue.
I love dialogue
I love
too.
writing dialogue. I mean,
I have those conversations I will have the conversation out loud with myself and the pacing of it. And do I need to put a little descriptor, like when they say it, so that, like if I'm saying something, I joke all the time that sarcasm should have a font. So like sarcasm is hard to write, that you have to put a little bit of descriptor around it instead of going, he said sarcastically. I hate that. That drives Vanessa. Just got a look, as you can tell on her face from the he said blah blah blah. She hates that. She hates when you do that. But you have to find sometimes ways to describe it. I'm telling you, anybody out there wants to take this idea and make a sarcasm font for my phone, I will fully appreciate it, because I'll write things and I'll get question marks back and I'm like, that was sarcastic. Jeez.
Yeah. And that's really hard. But yeah, like you say, I mean, it's hard to get sometimes, and I struggle with it too, but it's hard to get sometimes the pacing of it, and going with how you hear it in your head and then putting it on the page sometimes can be a challenge. But it's by far my most favorite part of writing is dialogue, and I like it. And I'm not saying that I do it great, but to me, I feel like that's probably the best thing that I do as a writer. No, maybe it's just because I love it so much.
I think it's great. Go ahead, Vanessa.
I was gonna say, do you ever find yourself just like getting lost in your dialogue and then having to put in the actions later? Because like sometimes you're just like in the flow. I'm like, okay, this character is saying this, and then this one's saying this, and then you go back and you're like, oh, no one has any body movements going on over here.
It's funny you say that because Margaret did this exercise once, and she included, this was back in the early days, she included us all, and it's like, okay, everybody's going to write a story, and all it is dialogue. There's no dialogue tags. There's no, this character or that character. You're just going to write it by, what they're saying. Obviously, each person has a different line, just like normal, but there's no dialogue tags. There's nothing. It's just dialogue. And it was fun. It was a fun exercise. It was a really fun exercise.
It kind of forces you to make that dialogue very impactful, so that you can kind of visualize what their movement is, which what I am sure not Valerie, Erica would know because she does screenwriting. That you have to make the dialogue impactful, so then you can just visualize exactly what that character is doing as they say this, and which is what movie scripts are like.
No, totally. It's mostly dialogue. A lot of directors don't even want you to put scene settings and stuff in the scripts. They just want the dialogue in a really brief, like they're at a diner, done, and then the dialogues that go back and forth. They don't want you to do that. Did you win?
Bitch ass motherfucker. He did.
So so you do this, oh my God, what was the question I was about to ask?
I'm sorry.
You like listening to music and stuff like that when you write? What is your best writing setting?
Oh gosh. A lot of it depends on what I'm writing. I did a book once about a rock band, and I listened to 80s hair bands like through the whole thing. 80s hair bands, Metallica, just anything that could get my guitar on, just as screamy as it was, the better it was. But then there's times I want the noise, but I don't necessarily pay attention to it, so I'll put on something that I've seen 50,000 times, a movie or something, and just have the noise in the background, and I hear it, and it just kind of, I guess that's my white noise. And then sometimes, I guess, depending on what it is or whatever, like I said, I just want quiet. I don't want anybody talking to me. Get out to the garage, I'll shut the doors, turn on the fan, and just try to do as much as I can. Usually that's when I'm on crunch time, and it's got to be done now, and I don't need any distractions. I want to just let everything flow as well as I can. But yeah, different things for different genre, for different situations, even. Do
you ever post your playlists, like on Spotify or anything?
Twice I did, I think. There was a song once, and I can't remember. It was by Disturbed. It was a Phil Collins redo, maybe, that they had.
It wasn't Sound of Silence, right? Because that was
Sound of Silence. Well, no, that was
Simon and Garfunkel
recently. And yeah, that's Simon and Garfunkel. But this one was Genesis, but I can't remember. It wasn't Mama. It wasn't. There was another, but it was another really. I don't know. But I had posted it because for some reason, I found it on my Pandora playlist. I had a Rammstein Pandora playlist, and it came up with that. I guess because it's just Disturbed and they scream a lot, and that song for some reason just stuck, and so I stick it on loop, and it's just playing through the whole time I'm writing in that session. And I posted, I'm like, oh my God, this is so fucking great, you guys got to hear this. And at the same time, that was what got me through that scene. I don't know why. Had nothing to do with anything going on in the scene. It just for some reason stuck in my head, and that's what I wanted.
And you know what, I have to say this, I actually would like more authors to include their playlists, share their songs with their Facebook, Instagram, whatever, because I feel like it's almost an immersive experience if writers can talk about what they like to drink. So like Val, one of our things, she loves this lavender latte that they have at this coffee shop. She used to go every Sunday morning for 3 hours or so and just write straight. It was like her best writing time, obviously before COVID and the world shut down. And she would get a lavender latte, and I'm like, she'd talk about it, and I think to myself, and then sharing the playlists and stuff like that, I go, you know what is amazing is your readers could always put on the playlist, grab that latte, and read the book, and almost be immersed in what it was like for the writer to put that together And anyway, this is my drunk idea of the day. I think we should create immersive experiences.
Well, that all goes back to marketing too. I mean, you've got to get readers vested in you as an author. They got to like you. They've got to be able to relate. And I mean, I think this podcast is kind of a point that I make. It doesn't always have to be about the books every time you're talking about stuff. I mean, yes, they want to know all about it, but they also want to know what you are like as an ordinary human being, because they want to relate to that, or at least that's been my experience. I've had chats where we talked nothing at all about books. Just, there was one day I was trying to think of a song, because I'm like, that would be a great title for, there's like a word in the, or a phrase in the song, like that would be a great title for this particular book that I'm working on, but I cannot think of the name. And we spent an hour trying to figure out what the song was. I couldn't remember. I was just like, I don't know. It talks about this, this, and this. And they would spit out song after song, and we go on YouTube and look them up with the lyrics and everything. It's like, nope, that ain't it. We saw it. Our people talked about that chat, and this was probably 10 years ago, so it was literally a chat on Yahoo groups. People talked about that chat for probably 6 months. Just like, oh, do you remember when? And I'm like, oh, no, don't get me started, because I'll try to think of that song again, and I'll not be able to figure it out, because I couldn't figure it out the first time. But I mean, I think in posting playlists and, what you're eating at the time, or what you're drinking at the time, or what movie you're watching while you're watching this, is like you said, it's a whole immersive, this is what I was feeling at the time. And it's a good marketing tool, a very good marketing tool, something that kind of brings you down to earth as a person and lets readers see you as the goofy, crazy, bitchy ass person you are,
I think that's amazing. Vanessa, did you have a question?
Oh no, I do. I listen to music when I write, but also another thing, I don't know if you guys relate, but I'll even light candles while writing, because certain scents kind of trigger scenes, like especially if you like have a scene where they're in the snow and there's like a bunch of trees. Like I have like pine scented, like snow scented candles, and I just, sometimes it's great just to have a nice scent to kind of like get you
definitely. Definitely,
okay, to introduce the immersive experience of what is the writer drinking, what are they eating, what scents are around them, what is the music. You create the whole ambiance. I love this idea. I think this is a great idea. I just wrote it down so I don't forget about this. I'm gonna start talking about it. Let's talk about your readers and reviews. How do you feel about reviews?
Well, if it's great, obviously I love it. Yay, go me. I'm not going to say I don't take constructive criticism well. I do have a huge problem when a reader says, oh, the book was great, it was too short, so I'm giving it a 2. I'm sorry, the page count's there. That bothers me. I mean, if the only reason you didn't like my book was because it wasn't 120,000 words, then that's not a fair review of my work.
Oh no, not at all. I always
at the same time I still try to say, thank you for your review. I'm glad you enjoyed the story, and I try to find something positive to say, because, that's their opinion. They're entitled to it. I just wish you wouldn't post it on Amazon like that. It hurts. It hurts. I'm not gonna lie, it does. It hurts.
Yeah, right. I think you have to ignore those. I've talked about this review that is like, to me, and it wasn't a book review, it was a restaurant review, where they said the food was amazing, the service was fantastic, the lime or lemon in their Moscow Mule was not as fresh, 1 star.
What?
Yeah. See, that's not, yeah.
And it's an exact example of what people, you can't, to me, it's one thing if you get several reviews that are like, I had a big problem because the character's name changed twice. If you get 2 or 3 reviews, maybe go look to see if that fucking character's name changed and get that fixed. Because that's a legitimate, like, but if it's not long enough, if it's too long, if it's not their kind of book, don't review it. Just don't bother doing that, because it's not a legitimate review. And to me, as authors, I think we have to take those and go, thanks, and just throw them in the toilet and away and ignore them. Mm-hmm. And anybody who actually legitimately reads the review, I don't think goes, oh, it's way too short. I think they go, what? What it was,
Yeah.
you know.
Literally, the longest book that I ever wrote was probably 62,000 words, and it's one of those that I've self-published. Actually, I think Shar had it published, and when she shut down, I just took it, and I intended to self-publish it, but just never have yet. But yeah, longest book I had ever written, like 62,000 words. I was so fucking proud of it, right? And it's like the second review I got on it was, you know, great storyline, great characters, just too short. It was too short, and I'm like, really? You have any idea how hard I busted my ass to get those extra 30,000 words that I'm not used to putting in there? And it was kind of a deflative moment, but again, what do you do? She probably was not, and I had never written, I mean, up until that point, the longest book I'd ever written was maybe 30,000 words. So my readers knew this was not the norm for me. So I kept consoling myself with the fact that maybe she's a new reader. Great, that's good. We like new readers, right? But she just, you know, didn't like it because it was too short. I mean, she liked it. I won't tell you that. She liked it. She even said she liked it, but it got a 1 star because it was too short.
Well, and that's just dumb, and I really would hope you don't take that personally, because that's
no, it is what it is.
Not your audience. Moving on from that. Okay. So, real quick, because we are coming up on the end of this, what advice would you give to authors out there? I haven't asked that question in a while, and I love that question.
Grow a fucking thick skin, okay? Grow a fucking thick skin.
Preach.
Do not expect that you're going to get rich overnight. Do not expect that your first book is going to be the end all be all to everything romantic fiction has to offer. Do not expect that even after 10 years that you're going to be making a decent salary and can be able to quit your day job, because the bottom can and will fall out of it at least once or twice or 3 times during your career if you make it that long. You know, have a backup plan. Don't lose sight of your dream. Keep, you know, you've got to plug away. I mean, it's like any business endeavor. You know, it's got its ups and downs and ins and outs and everything like that. But if you're truly serious about doing something like that, you know, just keep sight of your vision and don't let everybody drag you down. But at the same time, use some common sense about it. I mean, you can't just get a book accepted, get it published, and overnight you're just going to up and quit everything. I mean, that's just not smart, you know. But above all, just grow a thick skin and push through it and find your readership. Take the time to find the readers that you're targeting and learn what they like and learn what they don't like. You're not writing for yourself. I mean, some people probably do, but if you're only writing what you want to write, you know, you may or may not be successful. But if you really truly want readers to engage with you, you've got to find something that the readership you're targeting likes. It may or may not be what you like. And if it's not, then you probably need to look for a different readership and find somebody who can fit in with your mold. Don't expect people to mold to you, because that ain't going to happen. With Amazon, there are too damn many people out there. I mean, I hate to bastardize it, I guess, and say that you need to conform. That's not really what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you've got to find the audience that clicks with you and target that audience in your marketing and write your stuff for them. That may mean you have to compromise some, but, you know, don't we have to compromise in everything in life? It's not a purist look at it. You can't be a purist if you're going to be a writer. You just can't.
Well, you can if you're not going to be a writer that's trying to make money.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw that out there. You can absolutely do that if you're not trying to make the dollar bills, y'all. You can be as pure as you want to be. Pure as the driven fucking snow. There we go. Okay. How do people find you?
My website is marteekakarland.com, just all one word. You can also find me at Changeling Press, BookBub, everything, pretty much everything involved with me is Marteeka Karland. Twitter, awesome. Facebook. I try to keep it simple. If you find me on Facebook, my group name is Marteeka's Magic. But if you just friend me, then you'll find, I mean, the links are all there, but it's all on my website. Every link to everything that I've got is on my website, marteekakarland.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Amazing. You have been fantastic as a guest.
It's been fun. It's been great.
Awesome. Very cool. And thank you for being on. Yay. And
guys.
Of course. And this has been Drinking with Authors. I've been your host, Erica Lance.
And I'm Vanessa Valiente.
And we will see you next time. I forgot we're waving.
Spend all your time waiting for that second chance, for a break that would make it okay. There's always some reason to feel not good enough, and it's hard at the end of the day. I need some distraction. Oh, beautiful release. Memories seep through my veins. Let me be empty. Oh, weightless, and maybe I'll find some peace tonight. In the arms of the angel, fly away from here, from this dark, cold hotel room, and the endlessness that you fear.
Hello, I'm Marteeka Karland, CEO of Four Horsemen Publications. And a host of Drinking with Authors. Are you a frustrated author? Is writing hard? Are you not getting the words out? We have the solution for you. The Author's Accountability Guide 2021. In it contains accountability, 4 muses, practice exercises. We even have an online community where you and your fellow writers can figure out what the heck you're doing wrong and how to fix it. Everything you need is contained in this book. I'm not only a sponsor, I'm also a writer. Find us at the Author's Accountability Guide, because I know you're wondering how to make writing less hard.
That you make up for all that you lack. It don't make no difference. Escape one last time. It's easier to believe in this sweet madness, all this glorious sadness that brings me to my knees. In the
We started recording. Woo! Welcome to Drinking with Authors, the Literary Briefs episode. We're recording this. So, what are you doing with your computer, Vanessa? Stop.
It felt like the light was like super bright on the screen, so I was trying to like.
It was your speakers on, and it sounds like you're doing Rustling in the Breeze. We're trying to record episodes. This is why we can't have nice things.
Trying to add some ambiance to this conversation.
Oh my goodness, we're never going to get through this. Okay, this is the Literary Briefs episode. I'm your host, Marteeka Karland. With me today is
Vanessa Valiente.
and our guest today is Marteeka Karland. Oh my gosh. Let's talk about what we're drinking since Vanessa ruined the start of this presentation. I am finishing off my coffee that has misunderstood ginger whiskey in it. By the way, a lot of the whiskey was at the bottom, so I'm at the really good part right now. Okay, so Vanessa, what do you got?
I refilled my Captain and Coke, and I did take a sip of coffee just to kind of give me a little boost, and I'm ready.
Marteeka, what do you have?
I'm on my second Captain and Coke in my red Solo cup.
I love that. I love that. Okay. Literary briefs, rapid fire questions. I almost just forgot again what we're doing here. I don't know why I do this to I do know why. Because I love it. Okay. So rapid fire questions. What is your favorite book?
Who, me?
I'm not interviewing Vanessa. By the way, this is your podcast.
Oh my! Okay, my favorite book. Oh God, you caught me at the end, and I'm drunk. Oh my God.
That is why I do this. Woo-hoo! Welcome to Drinking with Authors, Literary Briefs. Okay.
I'm gonna say, oh fuck, what was the name of it? That first book that Chris Lee Cole came out with the vampire and the werewolf. That shit was hot. a, 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 a hunger like no other. A hunger like no other. That was yes.
I love the fact that you
love
just
that story.
Googled that what you were saying.
It just left. It just left my mind. I like could see the cover, and I'm like, oh.
Okay,
Just
so
didn't go anywhere.
why is that your favorite book?
Because of the whole spin that she put. I mean, I don't know, the whole spin that she put on paranormal stuff. I mean, she's got like every paranormal creature that you could possibly think of interacting in this book, and they're like a whole different world within the human realm. It's just, I love the spin that she put on the whole thing, and that book kind of set everything off. And then, of course, it's this whole series, and some things are happening all at the same time, and some things are kind of linear. But I mean, just the fact that the werewolves are from Scotland and they got this sexy ass Scottish accent, and all the vampires are from Russia or Estonia and they got this Russian accent, and then the fae are all from Ireland, and the demons are kind of South African, and it's just, I love it. I love it. I love it all. It's just, the whole thing is like this creative mass of, oh my God, why did I not think of that kind of thing going on?
Wow. That's
Oh man, you should listen to Robert Peckhoff read it. Oh my fucking God. That man could read the phone book and it would be sexy. But yeah, Robert Peckhoff, and he does like all of her Immortals After Dark books. And I just like sit there and drool. It's like lick up the screen.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, I had the orgasm.
I'm so glad we're doing a video recording of this.
Oh shit! Fucking bitch.
Okay. Now that we've composed ourselves for a moment, favorite book.
What was that?
What book do you not like the most?
Oh man, probably the last book that I bought, the political shit. I like to keep up with what's going on politically, but it was like I read it and it's like it was hard to read. It wasn't laid out logically, and it wasn't, I don't know, it just was not. I mean, normally you can kind of follow it and go, that's interesting. This one, not so much. And I don't remember, it was by somebody here in Kentucky, and that's the whole reason that I bought it. Matt somebody that does the radio shows and everything, and he's, he has an interesting radio show, and I love his Wildcat stuff for University of Kentucky, but he just cannot write for shit. God love his little heart. I bought the book to support him because I like him, but damn, people, it was rough. It was real rough. I mean, it was real rough, like Brillo pad to the ass rough.
Okay, I can imagine that experience. I've yet to have that experience, but I can imagine that experience. Well, speaking of Brillo pads to the ass, no, just kidding. Do you always finish your books? Do you always finish it when you buy them? Did she freeze? It looks like, okay, there she's back. Okay.
Sorry. I can think of a couple that I shelved for a while, and one of them, God love it, was Cressley Cole's, one of the Immortals After Dark. It was Lothair. I threw my iPad across the room at one point because I'm like, he's not a heroine. He's a bastard. I hate him. But I gotta see what happened next. I did not want to finish that book. He was so fucking mean to the heroine. He was so mean to her. But it was his character, and he paid for it later. And he redeemed himself later. But I was just, at the time, I'm thinking there's no possible way he can redeem himself in this. And so I guess it was kind of a evil experience maybe for my end, because I was so tore up over this book, and I'm like, and it turned out it was the very first book I'd ever read from her. And then I went back and bought the rest of them. but yes, I generally finish them. Sometimes it may take me a while, and I have shelved more than one or two, but yes, if I buy the book, I'm going to read it start to finish.
Wow. Do you always need a happy ending or a happy for now?
Yes, no, happy for now or happy ever after, either way. But yes, I have to. If somebody dies at the end, the main character dies at the end, or they just decide they're taking a break and going away, that's not, no, I did not invest that 6 hours of my life or 12 hours of my life, depending on how long it is, reading that book for them not to be together at the fucking end. No, just no.
one of our other co-hosts, what she'll do, every book she picks it up and looks at the last couple of pages to make sure the main character is still on the last couple of
And
pages.
do not give me a cliffhanger. No, put it all in one fucking book. Sorry.
Wow. Okay. No Empire Strikes Back ending for you, huh?
No. No.
No. Very strong response.
Wow. Okay, so as a reader, what is your biggest pet peeve with an author? Like when you're reading a book, what would you consider one of your biggest pet peeves?
You mean besides cliffhanger endings?
Yeah, no, we got that. That's crystal clear. Cliffhanger endings.
Okay, well, I can think of an author right now that I dearly love, and I do buy just about everything she puts out. She's got about 6 series, and I think I've gotten all of at least 4 of them. But the poor woman likes to use repetition. She really likes repetition, like a lot. Like she'll say almost the exact same thing 2 chapters after she says it. And I feel like sometimes I don't know if it's filler or if it's just the way she writes or whatever, but nobody's ever corrected her on it. Everybody calls her out on it, but she still does it. I still buy the book, but it's like my biggest pet peeve ever is like, can you not think of a different way to say this? You've been at this for 20 years. Can you not say it differently? But I keep coming back. Because she's got one of the most creative minds that I've ever come across. And I just love reading her stuff. And I like the things that she does. And like one series she's got going now, she's really, really, really pushing the envelope of sexual boundaries and everything. Even to me as an erotic author, because I have written some just straight up erotica, pushes the boundaries even for me sometimes in this mainstream book. And it's just like, yeah, but can we not nix the repetition? You know, you can only for all time it so many times before it gets old, you know.
No. Okay, so who's the author?
I'm not saying that.
Why not?
It's Christine Feehan. I love her books. I love her Carpathian. She's probably the first vampire novel person that I ever read that they weren't really vampires or whatever. I love her stuff. Her bikers are fantastic. But my God, can we just find a different way of saying some of this shit?
Well, it's interesting you say that because we like to talk a lot about editing and what editing actually is. And it sounded to me like on the last podcast, you thoroughly appreciate the editing process and what editors do. And I'm assuming you listened to them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That
was a lesson I learned very early on. But I've also been lucky enough to have the same editor for 15 years. So we kind of have a back and forth. She knows what to expect of me. I know what to expect of her. She knows my hard limits. I know her hard limits. And we've only in 15 years had one argument on something. And it just turned out it was a trigger for her. I did scale it back a little bit. I didn't completely pull the scene from the book, but I did scale it back quite a bit just because she suggested. But yeah, you got to listen to your editors. If your editor don't call you out on it, though, it's fair game.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's what I was going to say is I think as writers, especially as you become more and more successful and possibly you end up with different editors and stuff, I would almost have a test sample thing that you had gotten back from another editor and send it to them and see what they do. Like if you had an editor you really liked that edited something, take that hard piece, like that section that they didn't like, send it and go, what would you have done with it? Because if they're, Stephen King talks about this and he has a whole thing on his website to send him edit issues because he had an editor that was newer and was afraid to call him out. And he put a book out and it was terribly full of horrible edits. And he was like, that's it. Never mind. We'll get the fans to tell me what's wrong and I'll get it fixed.
Well, and honestly, like in his case too, but I'm sure in her case, her readers are hardcore. They're going to buy anything she puts out. I'm sure they're used to it. I'm used to it. Don't mean I like it, but, I'm still buying her shit.
I understand. There are a couple authors I'm absolutely committed to, even if they do that same thing. Like there's a point, we were talking yesterday with an author for a little bit, and we were talking about when to give up a series. Like when do you need to call the fucking ball on that series and just give it the fuck up and let it go. Let it go. Let it go.
Let it go.
When it starts snowing in here. because you do need to let it go at some point. If you are really not being original, it's not new. You're just dragging the thing out at this point. You're doing it because it's giving you a paycheck. Totally understand that in a way, but at the same time, take some characters in there, branch off, and do a story about them and something different, and not the same repetitive bullshit over again.
Yeah.
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 Let it absolutely go. Where's your question, Vanessa? We're doing rapid fire. Did you just have too much Captain? What the hell?
Oh, I don't. Well, because you guys were having some great questions, so I felt like I was a viewer. Just I'm just enthralled in the conversation.
You're just chilling, aren't you?
Well, I would love to know, like, who is like one of your ultimate ships, like couple ships. I would love to know who are you rooting for.
And in what? I'm sorry.
Like, for instance, are you like, and I'm only throwing this in as an example, you don't have to use this one, but like if you were like a Bella and Edward fan, or, trying to think of Jamie and Claire from Outlander, like, is there one that is like one of your ultimate couple ships?
Oh, man. Well, honestly, I was kind of rooting for Ray and Kylo.
Oh, yeah. Sorry,
And then-
don't.
Yeah, and I cried. And I cried because, that was a hard moment. That was a really hard moment. I don't know that I'll get over that anytime soon.
That was so, like, one moment you were like, oh, did I finally get what I wanted? And then 2 seconds later, it's all taken away.
And then I'm like, what the fuck? He, like, gave his life for you. Why don't you give your life back for him? But just go back and forth. It's the same thing over and over again. But I guess it doesn't work that way. My son was like, Mom, it's not real. And my mom said the same thing when I was like, do you think if Jack could have got out of the water that he would have lived?
Don't talk.
And mom's like, you do realize that they're a made up character, right? That didn't really happen.
He could have gotten on that door. Y'all know it.
Oh my goodness.
This is why I don't like cliffhangers, and I have to have a happy ever after ending. I mean, or at least a happy for now. They have to be together at the end of the book, and they have to be no plans of separating.
Oh my God, did you watch?
It's just no.
Did you watch that? What's the Marvel movie? Not Endgame, because Endgame, but the one right before Endgame when you were left with that one cliffhanger. Did you watch that?
Yeah, the Soul Stone thing. I watched it.
I walked out of there devastated. I didn't know what to do.
I was just sitting there, and like the credits are rolling, and of course, you've got the end credit, and when Captain Marvel and all this, and everybody's there, and I'm like, and then they're like, whatever, Thanos will return or whatever, and I'm like, I don't care about Thanos. I want to know where Spider-Man is.
I know. Oh my God.
I mean, and then my son goes, well, Black Panther's not really dead, right? You know that. He's like one of the biggest, Black Panther's not really dead, Mom. I'm like, yeah, but I need a hug.
Well, you say that, and the news this weekend, if we're going to be super sad about everything, is that Black Panther actually did pass away this weekend.
I know!
Oh, that was devastating.
It was,
Can we just skip over 2020 already? I mean,
I know.
I saw this meme that kind of sums it all up. 13 is like, I'm the worst number ever, and 666 is like, yeah, right. And 2020 is like, hold my beer. Yeah, that about sums it up. And then he really did die. And it's like, no.
Like a lot of writers, it's interesting because a lot of us, especially that had day jobs, were like, well, now we're at home and we're going to have time. And like, I mean, there are horrible things, but we always talk about wanting more time and less distraction and all that stuff. And I found that didn't work well. Like this.
No, it didn't, because we had all the time in the world after March. We had all the time in the world. And what are we doing? We're lamenting the fact that Wonder Woman did not come out this summer as planned. or actually back in March, I guess. I mean, you know, come on. We got to have Wonder Woman. You know, we just do.
I agree 1,000%.
But yeah, no, you're exactly right. We will lament the fact that we don't have enough time. We need the day job, then we get furloughed, and we just manage to catch up. We don't actually get ahead. You know, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be something that distracts us because we're ADHD and squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, squirrel is exactly right. Writers. That's why I end up doing the gesture and going, "Can you get back on task?" Oh, that's so cute. My favorite is when the writers come to me and go, "I want to write this story and this story," and I'm like, "Cool. Here's your spreadsheet. Make a couple notes. Get back to what you're supposed to finish." Like,
oh yeah, and then when she
does that work out well for you?
It does, but I think it's the nature of how I do it because I do.
Margaret does the same thing to me, and sometimes it doesn't work out so well.
Well, the thing is, I'll say when Erica's like, "So, how are you doing on such and such?" And I'm like, "Oh, great!" And I'm like, "Shit, I gotta go real fast. I need to hurry up." And I was like, "I don't know." I'll be like, "I don't want to disappoint Erica. I don't want to get yelled at." And I say yelled at.
My favorite one is, "Oh, it'll be done this weekend. Yeah, I'll get it to you before I go to bed Sunday night."
Oh yeah.
And my editor's like, "Yeah, right." And Margaret's like, "Yeah, right."
Well, I also go when she goes, "Oh, it's going great." I'm like, "Cool." So what does that mean? Like, what does that mean to you when you say it's going great? But one thing I find too, and I'm glad that we actually got here, is I think you have to have other writers around you and have people that go, "So how's it going?" Because like we get on a call. This is something we started doing a while ago. Apparently it was my idea and I don't remember having the idea, but I'll claim it because it's brilliant. So obviously I had that idea. And we get on a call every night from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. and there's 4 of us. And we work together at the publication company, so every now and then we're doing that stuff, but mainly it's just to write. But the cool thing is we're on Skype, and I can see Vanessa. So I'll see Vanessa get this particular, she'll do this thing, and now that we're on video, I can show it, where she kind of pauses, and she'll do this, and I'm like, that bitch is not writing a fucking word right now. I don't know what she's doing. So I will go, and that was me putting my hand under my chin and staring at the computer for those just listening to the podcast. Don't want to take that away from you. And I'm like, "So Vanessa, how's it going?" "I'm fine." I'm like, "Okay, you know, people have been bitten by zombies say that. What's happening? Are you stuck?" And we can go, "What are you stuck on? Let's talk about it." And I call it kind of being a muse. And it's not that she necessarily takes anything I'm saying, but sometimes we can work through it. Like one of the writers I work with had this scene that was happening, and she's like, "I cannot figure out how to tie this thing." And I'm like, "Why don't you invent a sea monster?" And I Googled mystical sea monsters or something and sent like 2 links in the chat to weird fucking sea monsters. And I'm like, "Why don't you have her get paralyzed or it's sleep inducing? I don't know. That'll help." And she literally took that, obviously changed it so it was way cooler than what I sent, and put it in the story. And I think that's important. I think you have to have somebody, when you get stuck, to bounce, even just talk to about it and encourage you, because you can get stuck and you can be looking at that page and not like writer's block like when we were kids we thought, where you just stare at a blank page in a typewriter for hours or days. It's not that. You get stuck in a scene and it just kind of doesn't go, and you need somebody to go boop, and unwedge it, like make it happen. And I think that's a vital part. Do you have a writer's group that you're a part of, or writing team, or what? You know,
there's a few of us that kind of get together on Facebook from time to time, and just like I said, just have writing sprints or whatever. I don't really have like a group, a writing group per se, but I mean, you know, Margaret is always super helpful. If I get stuck, I'm like, I'll tell her what's going on and what do you suggest, and then of course she comes up with something way off the wall, and it's more than anything, it just kind of gets me thinking, well, why no? Why don't you want to use that? It'll work. Well, and then I'll find something, you know. But that's the way I work, and she knows that. But yeah, no, we just book sprints or whatever. And sometimes if we get stuck, I'm like, dude, I don't know what to do. I can't write this sex scene. And I've found that The group that I work with, they'll get stuck on the sex before they'll get stuck on anywhere else. The story, no problem. They get stuck on the sex because they're like, there's only so many ways you can insert tab A into slot B. What do I do next? I'm like, I don't know. And then we'll work through it, and somehow it'll get unstuck, and then it'll start flowing again, and it'll turn out to be a pretty hot scene. So, I think sometimes you're right. You just need somebody to kind of nudge you in that direction.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying take what they say. You can completely ignore whatever's coming out of their mouth, but just have somebody to do whatever in your mind or brain or whatever that kicks it again and makes you go, okay, I know where I'm going with this now. Yeah. Especially if you're a pantser like me, if you get stuck, it's not like you have a fucking outline to go back to. You're like, okay, we're at the gas station.
Yeah, and sometimes Wikipedia is not your friend. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's a black hole.
Look at shit on Wikipedia all day long.
Oh my
totally
god.
Unrelated shit.
And that's the truth with YouTube videos. Don't, unless you're trying to see how to construct something, do not fucking watch a YouTube video because you'll get into the cats. Eventually, somehow it will lead to animal
it
videos.
Always comes back to the cats. Yes.
Yeah. And yes. I don't fucking understand that. Okay. Let's talk about sex. So, on the sex scenes, when you first, yeah, exactly. Let's talk about sex. Okay. Anyway, did you, when you started writing sex scenes, did you use dolls or anything? I know that sounds kind of horrible, but I've talked to a lot of people who write sex scenes, and you have to keep track of how many body parts are doing different things and what they're doing, and is that fucking humanly possible?
Dude, I personally did not, but there was an author several years back with Changeling who had her Ken and her Barbie dolls, and she would they had their own blog. They had their own fucking blog. She would and then she would make up these little stories, and she's like, okay, so this is what I'm working, she tied it all back to her books, obviously, the book she was working on, but she'd have her little Ken and her little Barbie, and they'd all be doing whatever, and she would take pictures, and G.I. Joe, she had a G.I. Joe doll, and I mean, just all this shit, and have them in their little scene and everything like that, and then she would take pictures and write a mini story on her blog to go with. But that's how it all started, was she was trying to find a way to get all the body parts in the right place.
Wow.
I think it's true with that.
It was awesome.
And
it was fucking awesome.
Because, and I've met authors, and we have authors that write multiple partners. So one-on-one, you can kind of imagine in your brain. But the second other people enter into the equation, you have to keep track of where everybody's thing is, because that will throw somebody out of the story when they're like, what just happened? Where did that go?
Changeling is one of the few publishing houses that still uses pose to make their CGI characters. It's changed from back in the day, but I did a book one time, and I can't remember, but there was 3 guys and the girl, and I had them all in this complicated scene and everything, and my editor's like, no, the legs do not bend that way. It's not going to work. And so I get on I'm like, okay, guys, I need help. Katrina says this is not going to work. People, and rendered it, and okay, here you go, this is what it would look like. I'm like, yes, that's it. And Katrina's like, yeah, but you can't have the legs. I mean, we had a ball with it, but yeah, you just take all these little things and you pose them, and this is what it would look like. Now write that.
Oh my gosh. I feel like sometimes
it was awesome. We've had a lot of fun with shit like that. We've had a lot of fun with stuff like that. It's been a while, but yeah, we used to do stuff like that all the time. You just get your artists involved, especially if it's going to be a cover artist, and they're going to be doing that book, and they'll just they'll play with it, and they'll have fun with it, and everybody has a great time, and it just kind of morphed into this big event.
Yeah, I found that in our writing group that we'll be okay, we're trying to explain how this girl jumps on top of him, and then he's doing something, and it's is it possible? And so sometimes we'll throw snippets of the description into the chat, and then the collective group will kind of look at it and be like, okay, if you're reading this, does this make sense? Do you know what the exact movement, what position? Because sometimes you're trying to figure out, what's the best way to describe it without not being too wordy, but also making sure it makes sense as well. And so I'm like, I always worry that someone is going to walk in a conversation and be like, what the hell are you talking about?
No, we've been guilty of taking clips of porn videos too and inserting them, saying, this is what I'm talking about. This I saw, sort of, maybe heard. No, it wasn't me.
I love that the video
came up. Yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but yeah.
This is 6 inches. Where
like, no, it really wasn't me. Wasn't me. Yeah.
Yeah, you paused for a second, but you're like this. And I'm like, this right up, and this is 6 inches. Yay! Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh my gosh, we are almost at 30 minutes. Okay, how do people find you, my friend? Your shameless self-promotion starts now.
Marteeka Karland. Me.
It's your podcast.
Yeah, that's me. Are you asking me? Are you asking me?
Yes.
MarteekaKarland.com. MarteekaKarland. MarteekaKarland.com.
Amazing newsletter where people get to find out all kinds of things and get inside tidbits.
Yes, I do. It's all on my website. There is a part that says newsletter. I would tell you can't tell you the link because it's that long. But yeah, on my website at the very bottom in the left-hand corner is a spot that says newsletter. You click there and it takes you where to sign up for it. And I try to put out at least one a month. Sometimes it's more than that. There's surprise contests. I'll every now and then just give away like a $10 Amazon gift card to just readers who open it and sign up for it. I mean, just there's all kinds of little things that go out every now and then. Swag bags, everything. But some of it is exclusive to my newsletter. So if you want to pick it up, there it is. No more than 3 a month, but sometimes there'll be more than one.
Very cool. Okay, what is your next book coming out?
It's at the end of the month. I forget exactly which day. And it's Stunner's book. It'll be on the 29th of September, I guess. No, 25th. Sorry, 25th of September. It should go up on pre-order soon. I've just had released Thorne's book. It's from Salvation's Bane, Stunner's from Bones. But Stunner's book just came out. It just went live on Amazon this week, so it's been out for like 2 weeks total. And then the next one is Stunner's book. It's written. It's in there. Everybody had been, even get reviews say, I can't wait for Stunner's book. So it's out there. It's done. It's in the can. I'm just waiting to get edits back from the author. And I'm excited about that book, probably more than any of the ones that I've written in that series. It was a great story. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every second of writing that book.
Wonderful. Yay. Okay. It was wonderful having you on our podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. This has been great. This has been fun.
Oh, awesome. And I can't wait. We're going to definitely have you back. So this has been Drinking with Authors, Literary Briefs. I'm Erica Lance.
I'm Vanessa Valiente.
And we'll see you next time.